Welcome to Create the Edge. In this episode, it's our pleasure to have Marty Vids from Australia, host of the Marty Vids show and the most valued partner at Book Speakers Direct. And along with him is Lubna Forzley-Badr from UAE, storyteller, corporate super nanny, and managing director of Stories. Welcome to the show, Marty and Lubna. Pleasure to have you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joy. Thank you, Yusuf. Nice to be here.
It's an absolute pleasure. It's an absolute pleasure. And thank you so much for taking your time. And Marty, appreciate it. It's at the end of the workday for you. And Lubna, thank you for accommodating us, while you're actually away from the UAE and presently in Beirut. So thank you so much for accommodating us, into your schedule and making yourselves available for this discussion. Really appreciate it.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Looking forward to it.
Thank you. So Marty and Lubna, we're going to start this with a segment where we try and show who our guests are as a person, as an individual to our viewers. We'd like to know a little bit about the person behind the persona.
Look, we probably something as a child, we ran a family business called a milk bar when I was probably about 6 years old. And it was fascinating because my mother and father allowed me to run the bread stand in the milk bar, which is probably a grocery store for our international guests. But it was fantastic. So from a very early age, I'd learnt the value of customer service because I'd get to know George across the road would come in and I'd put the milk and I'd put the bread on the table and he'd give me a little tip and I'd help the bread, the bread man to bring the bread in. He'd throw an extra couple of loaves. So at the age of 8, I was like making $6, It was like lots of mixed lollies. And so that was a really great business experience early. And I loved going to the Yarra Valley with my grandmother. And that was a whole different experience. That was like going on walks, feeding the donkeys with carrots, like very basic, beautiful living. And I cherish those moments with my grandparents because, they were very special times of playing games and being in nature. So yeah, that's a little bit about myself.
Thank you so much.
That's fantastic. That is brilliant. I mean, Marty, you just brought back memories of obviously when you mentioned Yarra Valley and obviously Melbourne, right? Because I know you're originally from Melbourne. So, and you're presently sort of cooped up in the Sunshine Coast at this present moment. So, mate, that is fantastic. You're a born entrepreneur, for crying out loud. I mean, that is fantastic. Good on you. Good on you. Lubna, please. We'd love to know a little bit more regarding who the person is behind the persona.
Maybe I'll tell you a story or a childhood memory since I'm a storyteller. I grew up during the Lebanese War. And I remember as a child always seeing, bombs and buildings fall right in front of my face. And I remember as a family, we used to hide in one specific corner in my house with my parents. And while hearing all of this, it was just like very shocking. And there were days where we think, that's it, that's the moment, we're all gonna go. And I remember my parents always having the radio on and having prayers on. Very, very loud. And I remember them always telling us to have faith and to have purpose in life, to make sure that we stand for something and that we, live our life with positivity and with faith. And to keep the sound of prayers and the sound of faith always louder than the sound of bombs and the sounds of anything else and negativity that comes into our life. So that's one childhood memory that I'll always remember.
That is fantastic, actually. And, you've just brought up such a beautiful point because, it's all about sort of focusing on what is positive in life, because the more, the things that you actually focus on are the things that actually manifest into your life. So, the more you focus on things which are good, things which are positive, the more chances of it to actually be a part and parcel of your life. So I love that part where you just mentioned, you have the sound of prayer and faith and positive stuff louder than the negatives around you. So I think beautiful. Love that little nugget of wisdom right there, Lubna. So which brings me into the next part of our segment, which and a beautiful thing, which you actually shared something from your childhood anyway. So I'm gonna start with you, Lubna. So share with us another little story perhaps, which holds a very, very special, happy corner in your heart, which ideally you sometimes revisit, you know, when you're down or when you're upset or sad, or, you know, you just need a little bit of inspiration, something from your childhood which you hold very dear to your heart.
So I'll try to make it quick, but I remember we moved to Canada at a very young age with my family because of the Lebanese war. And my dad had a PhD. He was a university professor, but because we went to Canada and he didn't speak English very well and he didn't have a degree from there, we had to start more or less over. And the only thing that he could find is actually an ice cream store that went bankrupt and they needed somebody to run it. And he knew nothing about ice cream. So I remember we started this ice cream store at, you know, I was very young. I was only 11 at the time. And I'd go and help him in this ice cream store. And one day he had a customer come to him and say, "Hi, I'd like a float." And my dad had no clue what a float was. So my dad, and he hardly spoke any English. So he said to the guy, "Great, would you like it strong or mild?" And the guy was like, "Oh, I'd like it very strong." So my dad said, "You know what? Let's come and do it together. Come behind me." And he brought the guy behind, you know, the area where we actually scooped the ice cream, and he did the float with the guy. And I think that moment always stays with me because my dad taught me that to always stay humble. You know, he was a very well-known PhD professor here in Beirut, and he went to Canada, and because of his family, he started from nothing. So to always stay humble and to always, when you're presented with an opportunity, to go after it and to make it happen, even if you don't know how to make it happen, to always make it happen and do that with a lot of positivity and faith and with the idea that you're there to help other people out.
Beautiful. Another nugget of wisdom, because when you get an opportunity, don't think twice. Take it and then figure out how to do it. Love it, Lubna, love it.
How to do it, absolutely.
Marty.
So Marty, tell us, you know, share with us a moment from your childhood which brings back really happy memories, mate.
Yeah, I think for me, the first time I ever saw Good Morning Vietnam, I was thinking about Lubna's story there and how there's some similarities without the bombs, right? Everyone's got their own bombs, but you could
do without the bombs.
You could do without the bombs, right? But it's for me, Good Morning Vietnam was really an important film with Robin Williams, because at that stage my family were actually going through a divorce and there was some really bad things happening for a 15-year-old. And I saw that film and I just thought, humor makes things better. And I was going through an introverted time and, you know, asking a lot of questions like why our family and why something so good is starting to fall apart. And I saw that film and I just thought, when I saw Robin Williams in Good Morning Vietnam, I just thought, you know, play to the light, find the light in any situation. And humor, I think, really then orchestrated my thinking that even in business later on, whatever challenge that I had, I always looked at it with a light heart in order to find a way through. And that seemed to make things easier for me, no matter what the challenge was. But that was a happy moment because I remember being in the picture theatre just laughing in probably the worst time of my life that I thought up until that stage. And I came out just with a whole new perspective of what I thought life could be. So that was a really pivotal point and a really happy moment out of despair.
Beautiful, beautiful.